All right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Golden from SalesPOP, online sales magazine, and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Skip Wilson, who is on the other coast in beautiful Greenville, South Carolina. How you doing, Skip?
Doing well, doing well. It's a sunny day here, and of course, in San Diego, it's almost always sunny. Here, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
It's usually raining here, so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've had some rain. We've had more rain than we've ever seen, I think,
Oh,
recently.
that's good.
So, but the
Yeah,
sun is out now, so it's all good. Uh,
nice.
and Skip's best-selling author, host of the advertising podcast, Draft Media Partners, and in 2023, your company won Most Innovative Software Developer at the Business Martech Awards, and
That's right.
this year they won top spot as Best Marketing Software Developer at the same award show. So,
That's right.
fan- some fantastic, and you have a background working at CNN, Clear Channel Radio, and Vice President Digital Media for iHeartMedia. Excellent. So, what we're going to talk about today is how to get real results from advertising. And Skip, let's face it, a lot of people's experiences with advertising is that it's a black hole that sucks a lot of money in.
Yes.
Promises a lot and often delivers, perception wise, delivers little. So what are people doing wrong?
So usually it's one of two things. Either they're leaning on advertising to be their sole source of cold traffic, those types of things, or they aren't actually trusting it enough or giving it enough time. I will say also usually business owners either love advertising, in which case they get like addicted to it, or which is dangerous in its own right
Mhm.
because it means those are the businesses that get crushed when there's like algorithm changes and those types of things. The other end of the spectrum, though, is the folks that have decided it's not going to work before they run it, and then they run just a little bit, and then of course it doesn't work, and then they say, "See, I knew it. I knew it wasn't going to work the whole time." Right. So I'd say those are the sort of the two traps most folks
Yeah.
fall in.
And I feel like the second of those two traps is the one that I have come across probably more commonly, because, as you said, I mean, people go into it with the idea that, oh, I'm going to spend money here,
Yeah.
and when they don't get results in a month or 2 months or 3 months, they're like, oh, this isn't working, this is just money down the drain. So talk to me a little bit about how to set proper expectations around advertising.
Well, we live in a time where we should know, like before we even start a campaign, what the results should be. I mean, there's almost no category that is so unlike. I know every business owner goes, "My business is unlike any other business because of this or that." But if you're a roofer, or if you're if you're in the insurance space, or if you're an e-commerce brand, you you're just a Google search away from knowing what the typical cost per click is, or the typical conversion rates are. And so it really only takes a cocktail napkin worth of numbers to be able to figure out, okay, if I put $1,000 into this, what is a reasonable thing, assuming my campaign is average?
Hmm.
If you take that step, I think it helps you figure out, all right, what should this be? Now, a good, working with a company that knows their numbers and those things can help with that, because then they do that for you.
Right.
But even if you don't do that, I mean, just take an afternoon and Google it before you put 1,000 into it, because there are a number of times where we'll have someone. This is usually very small businesses, but usually
Hmm.
with very small businesses, we'll be working with someone and they go, "Yeah, our campaign's not working," and then we look at it,
Hmm.
and then we look at it, and it's like, well, no, actually, your campaign's doing great. You're getting decent clicks and conversion rates, but they were expecting a 5% landing page conversion, and they're in finance, and finance only converts at 2%. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
information's out there.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. Just to underline that is the proper setting of expectations. And as you said, I mean, yeah, it'd be lovely if you did an advertising campaign and suddenly people were just reaching out to you and saying, "This is awesome, I want to buy." But that's really not that usual. I think the other part is to. I think there are so many channels now that you can advertise on that some people end up maybe going in the wrong channels, or maybe going to too many channels at once. So how do you advise people when they're selecting the right channel or channels to go after?
I would say one of the main questions I get anytime someone learns what I do is some version of, I'm a this type of business. Which platform should I be on?
Hmm.
Really, that's the wrong question. The way to arrive at that is to think of who do you talk to? Like, who do you work with? Like, what problem do you solve? For whom do you solve that problem? Like, who is your, and then that's how you back into your audience. Then you try to figure out, all right, for that first, usually advertising is to generate cold business. So
Yeah.
when someone first hears about your business and they first reach out to you, how do they do that? In other words, is it an email, phone call, form fill, etc.? You figure out those two things, and then it's as simple as figuring out, okay, what do I need to say to these people to get them to take this action? Writing that out on a piece of paper or whatever,
Hmm.
make a Google sheet and just be like, this is my audience, this is the general message, and this is the thing I'm trying to get them to do. If you do that, then the answer of which platform becomes fairly obvious,
Right.
because it's a um, to use that roofing example, if you're a roofing company, your target audience is not just homeowners. Your target audience is homeowners of homes 10 years and older
Hmm.
that are in specific zip codes that have maybe been hit by wind or hail. So, and then what are you trying to get them to do? Probably it's going to be phone
Hmm.
calls or form fills. Well, they're going to be searching. So Google's the obvious answer to that, and then if you have more budget, you can go up, yes, you can add on things like YouTube and Hulu and those things. They can make sense. But for anybody starting out, just having a sense of who's my audience and what am I trying to get them to do helps answer that question. Because
Yeah.
on the other side, if you're a cool new protein powder and you've just figured out the best way to increase muscle mass or whatever, then your target audience is obviously fitness enthusiasts. They're not searching. So
Mhm.
Google's out of the question, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so instead, you're going to have to get them where they're just hanging out. So now you're going to lean more towards something like Instagram,
Yeah.
where there's a lot of fitness enthusiasts and they're just hanging out. And then now you can get this message to them.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, because my son is into all that, supplements and bodybuilding and all of that, and he gets all his stuff from, as you said, Instagram, TikTok. That's where he finds
Yeah,
those people. So you're right. If you were relying on Google searches, you'd never capture his demographic at all.
exactly.
Uh, the other thing that I often find, Skip, that kind of is mind blowing, is that people spend money on advertising, right? And you go and you're looking for service, and you see them, and then the follow up, they haven't got the follow up and the workflow. And I mean, I've been amazed when you reach out to somebody and you fill in their form, and then it's like 2 or 3 days before you hear back, if you hear back.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's there are so many times. There was a pharmaceutical supply company. I won't out them by saying their name. There's a pharmaceutical supply company where one conversion for them is worth $1 million,
Mhm.
and or more. And we did a campaign and it generated a few about 100 leads. And then when we had the conversation afterwards of or going into that next month of, hey, what'd you do with those 100 leads? It was, yeah, we didn't actually call any of them back. And I'm like, what? That's if you convert one, you have
Yeah.
a huge win. And you'd be surprised. I mean, I was actually on a call not 2 hours ago with a major fitness company, and don't out them either, but they were mentioning that they're getting, one of their problems was that they're getting a lot of after hour phone calls and fills. Well, this is a company that you would think would have a basic CRM that has automatic
Mhm.
follow up and stuff. And so, it's we live in a world where you can automate a lot of that stuff. So
There is, and you have access to resources across the globe. I mean, you could have after hours people answering the phone for relatively cheaply as well, and now obviously
exactly.
with AI. But yeah, that's the thing that just always blows my mind, is that they pay for it, they do the advertising, and they forget about the workflow afterwards. What has anything, now with AI and stuff? I mean, has anything is how is that impacting the advertising game?
So it really has had a massive Unfortunately, a massive positive impact in the advertising world because it's essentially killed organic. Um,
Mhm.
the
Right.
I would say that there's not been a better time to be in the paid ad space, and that's going to continue to be the case for the next at least 5-ish years, because whereas if you were relying on your blog to drive traffic or those types of things, now that anybody can generate a blog and those things, Google's de-indexing a lot of that stuff. And
Mhm.
it because organic is so much muddied by generative content that it's made advertising more essential because now you have to pay to be in to get eyeballs
Right.
because you're just buried amongst 200 AI posts. And that's true not only in the digital space but even but even in like the traditional media world as well. Um, that's the biggest direct impact to advertising is that it's just increased demand, and that's going to continue.
Yeah, and you just mentioned there traditional media, and I guess that's something as well is that sometimes we tend to go, oh well, that's all legacy, forget about all that stuff over here. But it does work for some businesses still, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. With there isn't a platform that doesn't have at least some moniker of success or it wouldn't exist. And
Hmm.
so there, if I was well, I'll use a real example. We've got a company that's assisted living and retirement homes. For them, traditional media is their bread and butter because
Right.
that's, they're reaching a
Mm.
65 plus audience. Even the kids of these people are 55 plus or 60 plus. Traditional media still very much matters. So it really is all about, that's why taking that step to understand who your
Hmm.
audience is, that answers that platform question, because the reality is that direct mail still works. All of it works to some degree. Um, it's just knowing which one's more efficient.
And then when you're working with companies, one of the other things I see nowadays a lot is uh, companies, they're trying to be cool or clever or whatever, or edgy or whatever, and their advertising and the projection kind of uh, grates with who they are, right? It's almost in conflict because they think, oh well, I need to be kind of cool, I need to be this, instead of going, well, maybe if you're a serious company, you do serious things, maybe, and that's what people expect from you. Then be a serious company.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about being. It's almost like the advice, like it's like giving like a high schooler dating advice or something, right? It's
Right.
like just be yourself. I mean,
Mm.
that is true for businesses too. People like authenticity. It was that became sort of a like buzz call to action like a few years ago, which is why companies started being edgy, because
Mm.
be yourself became, oh, then you must take political stances or you
Yeah.
must chime in on this or that. But really that's if you care about seeming like you are being a
Right.
personal driven brand. In reality, don't say anything unless you actually do, unless that is actually a core part of your business identity and culture and those types of things. Then by all means, absolutely. But just being true to who you are. And uh, I will say too, I think that is it's also important to keep in mind that business ultimately is designed. I think of businesses as just a formal organizational way to solve some sort of problem
Yeah.
for an audience. I think it's most important that you think, well, does my audience really care? In other words, do I
Yeah.
care about the edginess and coolness of, well, I keep using the roofing company example, but
Right.
roofing company is a perfect one. Do I care how cool my roofing company is? No, I'm going to call them once. I'm never going to talk to them again, hopefully. And I don't care if they're cool or or edgy or any of that. I know that none of that helps the message. It might actually distract from it. So being realistic too about why do people engage with my business,
Mhm.
and then figuring out, is this helpful to that message or not.
Yeah.
And
I mean, and in the case you said, I mean, if you're looking at a roofing company, you want to know somebody who's reliable, who has a track record, and who
yeah,
who does good work. And people say, not that they say, well, they're really cool and fun. You go, do I want my roofers to be cool and fun, or do I want them to be good roofers?
yeah, right, exactly. I want to barely know that they were here, right? I want
Yeah.
them to show up, do their thing, and then leave and never hear from them again.
Yeah. So are you seeing changes in the types of, when you're putting together advertising campaigns, or you're putting together content? Has that changed? Is that changing, or is it, do a lot of the fundamentals still remain?
The fundamentals trump everything else, because I mean,
Mhm.
it is still ultimately all forms of advertising is just paying to get some message in front of some audience to get them to take some action. And so it's all a specific message to a specific audience to get a specific action. And so everything else around that, there are new and cool ways to get in front of audiences. There are new and cool types of messaging that are resonating in those things, but it all ultimately comes down to those core resonances. I will say, I mean, to your question about AI, um, it would have been very hard for a business owner to come up with 20 different headlines for their business, 3 years ago. Now, that is definitely something that AI can help with. Now, is there a difference in quality between what AI could generate or what like one of our copywriters would generate? Yes, but is for essentially free,
Mhm.
for if unless you have a massive budget, um, it doesn't make that much of a difference.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, as we were talking at the beginning, is setting clear expectations around, around results and that. So when you engage with a company, like, how do you help them understand, like, the roadmap, or how this is going to play out over time, and make sure that they understand, kind of leading indicators of success, and know that it's not going to be instantaneous.
So we cheated with that, because what draft is an acronym. It was originally an acronym, Dynamic Response Advertising Forecast Technology. We actually went to market originally with a predictive tool that would, by industry, by geography, and by budget, would predict, here's what your
Mhm.
likely cost per lead is, here's what your likely ROAS is, or customer acquisition cost is. So that's been sort of baked into it. Originally we were selling that software to
Mhm.
ad agencies. And then very quickly we got the, hey, this is cool, but can you guys just execute the campaign for us as well?
Right.
So we morphed into more of an ad
Mhm.
execution company. Still most of our business behind the scenes of other ad agencies. But anyway, all that to say, um, what we do is just a very formalized version of figuring out what the average is for your industry, and then taking the time to do the math. I mean, you really only need to know what is the cost to get someone to take that first action. Usually, it's a
Mhm.
click in
Yeah.
today's world. What is the cost per click in your market, for your industry? And national averages are fine. In other words, if you are just Googling, national averages are going to be fine. But what is the average cost per click? Then what is the average conversion rate for cold traffic? Those are findable numbers for everything. So if you work with us, we start with that, really, because we have a very formal process for that. But even if you don't, just doing the research
Mhm.
beforehand, you can know those numbers ahead of time, and then that becomes the scorecard, because then you
Yeah.
figure out what's average, and then okay, well, if I should be getting 500 people to my site and I'm only getting 300 people to my site, that means my creative or audience is messed up. And so now I
Mm.
need to tweak or fix that. So it
Right.
gives, not only does it help set expectations, but then it also helps troubleshoot once you get into the campaign to figure out which of these things is broken. Is it the ad? Is it the landing page? Is it the audience? It becomes a
Mhm.
very objective thing.
Yeah, and when you go through this exercise, are people sometimes, like, surprised by the metrics, like the industry standards, or for their particular segment?
So we do cheat on that a little bit too, because we are mostly working with other ad agencies. So usually
Mhm.
we're dealing with people that
Right. Okay.
aren't
We know
surprised.
that.
But when we do work, I mean, the handful of times we do work with direct businesses, yeah, it can be very it can be very telling, especially in certain industries that have been like, there are some industries that have just been beat up by bad agencies. And so for some of them, usually they're, if it's an experienced advertiser, when they see the real numbers, where the response is some version of, oh wow, I would be thrilled to get that. and we're
Right.
talking about average numbers, right?
Mhm.
So it's like it's kind of almost sad. It's like that they would be thrilled to get average. Only really the folks that haven't advertised before are the ones that are like, oh, well then I was hoping for a $50 customer acquisition cost and you're forecasting 100. I would say that
Yeah.
doesn't happen a ton, but it does happen.
Mhm. And then, like you said, I mean, once you have the, the campaigns going and that there, and you have the metrics, then you can systematically tweak as you go. And I think that's the other thing that people find hard sometimes, is because you can't just tweak everything at once.
Yeah.
You have to tweak one thing at a time, or a couple of things at a time, and so that you can measure them properly. And sometimes people don't have the patience for that.
Yeah, I mean, almost everything will tell you that it takes 3-ish months or a quarter or 90 days to get a campaign optimized, and that's very true. I will say that's only true though if changes are being made.
Mhm.
That's the that's the caveat. If you're just letting it ride for 90 days, nothing's going to change that much.
Mhm.
Um, the but if you are taking the time to on a weekly basis figure out, okay, which of these metrics is way off. If it's the click through rate, it's the ad. If the time on site is 4 seconds, then you're reaching a bad audience or you're getting a lot of bot traffic. If you're getting people to the site and they're spending a minute or plus there, but they're not converting, then okay, my landing page needs help. And
Mhm.
so it does become it's like fixing an engine or anything else. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm getting electricity from here to here, but it's not getting from here to here. And so it does become very easy to fix when you know what that piece should be doing.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, listen, Skip, this has been fascinating. Thank you so much. Great information. All of Skip's information will be below this video. But before we go, please do remind people what you and Draft Media does.
Yeah, so we build campaigns. We put together the plan at no charge, and then we execute the campaign. We're like a DSP, so we just take a percentage of spend. So
Mhm.
we that's what we do. We build and execute ad campaigns. The building of the campaign's free. So reach out to us, info@draftmediapartners.com.
Perfect. Well, I would encourage people to go check it out. As I said, it's very easy to lose a lot of money advertising if you don't know what you're doing, and end up with a bad experience. So I would encourage you, go reach out to Draft Media, go and check it out, and get some expert help. It'll save you a lot of time and money in the long run, I feel.
Right.
All right. Well, listen, thanks again, Skip. Thank you for watching and listening, and I will see you all again soon. Thank you.